please subscribe and don't forget to press the bell icon to get notified whenever we upload a new video.
So export is one of the driving force of India's new growth trajectory. And we are working on it, and very soon we'll release our complete documentation as to how 40% of India's $5 trillion GDP will be coming from global trade. The role of state is going to be extremely critical. I had called a meeting of all the trade ministers, all the ministers, the chief ministers, to discuss about how states can drive exports of India. Because ultimately, exports may happen on the Indian brand, but the brand is somewhere located in some state. So if the states don't participate in it in full steam, it is not going to really happen in a big way. And therefore, state participation is critical. I am already happy that Maharashtra is the leading exporter of goods and services, but I would see Maharashtra playing even bigger role. For exports, one of the critical part is what you produce is important, but what is also important is the connectivity. You need air connectivity, you need land connectivity, you need sea connectivity, and probably over a period of time, we'd also need digital connectivity. Because when you export now, not necessarily will you export physically by saying something which is our traditional pattern of export. And I think in each of these, Maharashtra stands to gain significantly.
The minister in his encouraging speech touched on key issues, and this set the tone for an engaging panel discussion on the topic export-oriented industrialization, which is moderated by CNBC TV18's A.B. Ravi.
So I'm going to ask my friend Mr. Ajay Sai to talk about what he thinks about this whole export-oriented industrialization and what are the issues and challenges the exporters are facing.
We all know that export contribute to roughly 25% of Maharashtra's GDP, and therefore if Maharashtra wants to become a $1 trillion economy by 2025, the exports must move from around 90 billion at present to $250 billion, which requires around a compound annual growth rate of 14%. This is definitely achievable if we have proactive and supportive policy and facilitating approach. But let us look at broad challenges which exporters from Maharashtra will face, and I will not put the individual issues here. If you look at export profile of Maharashtra, 360 product out of 11,800 product at 6-digit level contribute to 85% of Maharashtra exports. And this itself poses a huge challenge in achieving quantum jump in exports. Secondly, whatever Maharashtra is exporting is to a segment which is 1/3 of the world trade. High and medium technology sector, project exports, electronics, office equipment including PCs, tablets, automobile. There, 2/3 of the world trade happens. Unfortunately, Maharashtra has no visible imprint in any of these sectors except to some extent in automobile sector. Secondly, India as a country and Maharashtra as a state is not part of the global value chain. Today, most of the trade is happening through global value chains. In fact, inputs and manufactured products in global value chain today accounts for 2/3 of the world trade. If we have automated customs process, efficient logistics, overall infrastructure improvement, focus on quality and standard, we may be able to integrate and participate in global value chain. That is something should be high on the agenda of the government. I personally feel that the role of the government is to provide competitiveness to exports, and as a corollary, what was blunting the competitive edge of exports needs to be addressed by the government quickly and effectively. I would also like to say that though, of course, we know that Maharashtra has taken various measures on ease of doing business, still when you talk to the industry, they talk about the delays, they talk about the human interface, they talk about the multiple contact points. So a state should move into an electronic process, a web-based network for ease of doing business and reducing the transaction cost.
Mr. Arun Kumar, KPMG. So very quickly, in a nutshell, can you tell us if we are export-oriented, what is the benefit for us and what is the outside view of India?
Many economies have been driven by exports. Right in Asia, we see that countries like Singapore, Taiwan, Korea, Japan before that, at a very large scale in China, their growth was driven by exports. So there is a case for looking at export-oriented industrialization as a key part of growth strategy. Why is this important? Because exports are a great job creator. Now, jobs can be created in multiple sectors, but a very important area to focus on is the MSME sector, because that sector is a sector that creates the largest number of jobs.
The typical problem which I'm hearing is delay in clearance at manual ports, delay in disbursement of drawback and rebate claims, a lack of clarity, and no strict adherence to rules. Gopal, if you could add to that. What I understand, the logistic cost in India is 16% compared to 8% in China. So how can India become competitive?
What we are trying to do through Amazon's global selling program is to help the MSMEs Mr. Arun was referring to give them access to 350 million customers across the world in 10 different marketplaces. One of the biggest hurdle in reaching those customers is the cost-effective, trackable solutions. So one of the things we've been working with the Indian Postal Service is to give that solution similar to what China Post offers to the Chinese manufacturers. And this will essentially remove one of the biggest hurdle in reaching the customers on time, because every customer, when they place an order, they want to see the product within a week or so. So having a cost-effective, trackable solution is very, very important.
I'm going to get Mr. Pandya in. I think gems and jewelry form 75% of the total export from the country. And I believe that you need to have 22 clearances before you can set up a unit in India. So one, I want you to talk about the logistic cost and how easy is it to do business today?
No, largely we have created infrastructure for the domestic industry. So that is designing, the quality that needs to be produced, the handmade jewelry, the quality that is required, which is available with Italy and other things. That has not come yet here. You see, today 22 permissions are required for a jewelry factory to be set up in Mumbai. Now, this is impossible for the artisans and small, medium and SMEs to start any factory. So it is necessary that we create a jewelry parks where we have one stop permission for all 22 sectors, and the jewelry park takes care of all environment clearance and all those other things, providing raw material, providing colored gemstones, providing diamonds, everything. And also the quality standards. And you see, the council can also get the Italians, designers and others to come and open design shops here to teach us this thing. Because you see, handmade, our artisans are very good, but the finish is not there.
Let me get Jay in. Jay, what is your own take when you look at the other sector and your sector? What more can be done? I believe that we can go from $35 billion to $100 billion. What's the time frame for that?
Looking at India, and looking at the world agriculture trade, the world agriculture trade is $1.5 trillion. India exports $35 billion of agriculture, which is, I guess, underappreciated because people don't even consider it as a major thrust area. But taking agriculture from 35 billion to say 100 billion, which will still mean only 7% market share, you can just imagine that today, various industries have so many lobbies and so many people who speak for them. But in sectors of agriculture, if you look at different sectors, the impact of agriculture exports on the livelihood of small farmers, these are the poorest people in our country, still doing $35 billion of exports. So taking it to $100 billion, $150 billion, which is just, the world GDP.
Jay, what I want to ask you, are we getting proposals like the Coke is saying that they're going to set up a plant in Nagpur for oranges? Are we getting proposals like from MNCs in the sector?
I think, a lot of these investments are coming in for local consumption. If India is going to be a $5 trillion economy, our food demand is going to grow higher than that. So whatever the food demand is, I think if our GDP is going to go at 8-9%, food demand will go at 12-13%. So I think the opportunity is tremendous, and a lot of these investments are coming for Indian market. But I think as Maharashtra, just talking specifically of Maharashtra, we are a big mango producer. Our mangoes are the best. If you look at pomegranates or grapes, these industries have flourished but we are still nowhere near world leaders. We can definitely be a world leader in mangoes. So the opportunity for creating foreign exchange, and this is all net foreign exchange earned. This is not like any other industry. So I think the opportunity for agriculture is fantastic.
Okay, now let me get the lead in. You heard all the panelists here. 2 or 3 questions come to my mind. One is, are we doing a piecemeal approach when the export sector is concerned, number 1. Number 2, you have the eyes and ears of the traders. So how do you go on implementing the policies that makes life easy for all that and put the smile on the face of people here and on the audience?
You know, how do we actually see this $1 trillion goal of government of Maharashtra coming into effect, or also the government of India's goal of, increasing our footprint in the world exports from 2% to 3.5%. And I think we are moving in the same direction. And Maharashtra is a very, very important partner for us to achieve this goal. State must take maximum benefit of the schemes of government of India. Now we implement the foreign trade policy and the foreign trade agreements. Basically, these are the 2 vehicles through which the government of India implements export promotion schemes. So my suggestion here to the state governments is to let's decrease or rather, the gap, or have a closer relationship where the entire gamut of export promotion policies that we have, can we take it not just to the state level, but also to the district industrial centers. And what I was thinking was that at least we have 2 programs of the government of India. One is the Niryat Bandhu program, and one is our trade analytics portal. How is it that we can work with the state governments to disseminate all these schemes and trade portal, which contains everything that an exporter needs to know, from starting with how to get an IEC, what is your product, what market should you explore. So this entire gamut of information that is available with us, it needs to be disseminated to the grassroots. And I think this is where, at the cutting edge, as an implementer, I would urge the state government that let us work closely together.
Ma'am, just to on skill development, what is the government doing?
When you talk of our foreign trade policy, which is the backbone of how we implement our export promotion schemes, if you see the midterm review, it will give you a pointer that the maximum, thrust in the midterm review was given to the MSME sector.
Yeah,
and
correct,
their skill development again becomes a very, very important component because this is the sector which needs maximum hand-holding. So my role really as an implementer and as an execution agency is to actually see how state government, since we are now speaking in magnetic Maharashtra, how can the state government actually draw on the schemes of Skill India and then get people from the Ministry of Commerce through DGFT. Let's sit together, let's synergize, let's take advantage of all those schemes, and then, sort of customize them to say the important export sectors of Maharashtra. Now, as I said, a very comprehensive study has been done by FTII, where 10 export sectors and 8 export clusters have already been identified. Now, the thing is, skill development cannot be seen in isolation.
Agree
now you have to then customize it and use it to make it applicable to your major thrust areas and to your major clusters.
I'm going to wrap up. I'm going to ask the final question to all the panelists here. What are 3 or 4 things that the government of Maharashtra should do to make this export-oriented industrialization workable and without any glitches?
Park, Convention Center, Gem and Jewelry University, and e-platform. I have a list of 4.
I think looking at the cost disability of Indian exports, there is a need to provide some kind of fiscal support to the industry, but that support should come in the form which is compatible with WTO provision of industry. Let us look into the new policy issues which are focusing on what is provided by WTO, look at providing subsidy in the nature of R&D support, look at subsidy which may be for meeting the environmental norms, look at the development of backward area with clearly better defined parameters which may be based on either on the unemployment rate or on the GDP of the state. Secondly, state needs to work on the labor laws. We are basically protecting existing labor at the cost of creation of new opportunities. The budget has done a beginning. We are talking about the fixed term contract labor. The state needs to come forward to implement those provisions, and industry would like that they should be given the flexibility to deal with 5 to 10% of the delinquent labors also.
Three things we wanted were very simple, right? One is the excise duties and the rules were driven for B2B exporters. How do we make them work for B2C exporters? Okay. For example, the used products and return products come in, we shouldn't charge excise duty on them. That is one of the biggest pain points for MSMEs. Number two, in the traditional world, you send the product to some buyer in some country so that the clear which buyer is buying it. In the new world, you don't necessarily know who is going to buy. You're sending it to a warehouse. Somebody in UK or somebody in US would buy it. So expecting a buyer name in advance through government forms and policies need to be re-looked at and say, how do we make the consignment model work? And three is the cost-effective, integrated logistics solution. I think that's where our cost is higher. We don't have a good product for the MSMEs to use. And once we offer that, this will be exponential growth. This is one of the major blockers for our MSMEs.
Arun, what is the advice you want to give the Chief Minister?
I would say that create a state export promotion agency, because I have seen this thing work very, very well. So that would be my most powerful
State export promotion zone, you're saying?
A unit which could be either run by the state or could be a public-private partnership. Okay. Ideally a public-private partnership. Okay. So that'd be number one. Number two would be, maybe as part of that, put data out in the public domain, data about all the various manufacturers, products, skill sets available so that, you know, people who want to buy from outside this country can see that data and use. And three, I would like to build on the e-commerce story because I'm very excited about the potential e-commerce. However, it might be a lot of small entrepreneurs are not aware of how to use e-commerce, whether it's Amazon or Alibaba or what have you. Okay. But there are some places where we've seen success. Like if you go to Tirupur, outside Coimbatore, you'll be amazed to see how many of the small exporters are exporting through e-commerce channels. There are success stories that can be replicated and learned from and propagated.
Okay. Jay?
So I think, if we are going to be a $1 trillion economy in Maharashtra or $5 trillion in India, more than half of India is involved in agriculture and in villages. And unless we put at least 30, 40, 50% of our efforts on making sure these people are able to grow and be an important player, we are not going to be able to achieve a fair $5 trillion economy. So the agriculture economy needs to grow. We need to focus. We need to really identify key target crops, key target markets, and decide we need to own these spaces. Asia is the fastest growing zone in the world. There's no reason why India shouldn't own certain segments of world agriculture industry, which is, just the free trade of agriculture is 1.3 trillion. India can easily do 300 billion. I'm saying let's target 100 billion. Maharashtra is such an important player. And so many people in agriculture and horticulture are involved. And these areas, we are globally competitive. And we just need to facilitate them. They are small farmers. They have a lot of hardships. And I think if we create the enabling environment, we can own a lot of this thing and really help these guys grow with the GDP.
Okay. Okay, ma'am, you have the hindsight view of all those people. So what is that you want to tell the Chief Minister of Maharashtra that looking at what you heard today?
One sector which I think is not tapped as much as the potential it holds is the service sector. And I think that is where industry and government need to collaborate to give a huge push to the sector, which can actually exponentially increase, the revenue share for exports for the state. I think what the industry also, in terms of changing its mindset, needs to do is to invest more in R&D and identify the value addition, and I think that is very important because there would be a saturation in terms of what are the traditional items that we have been exporting, and I think that some critical intervention and value addition can make all the difference So value addition and identifying new markets. And this is something which is not entirely the work of the government. We have to work actively with industry, to do this market research and come up with those innovative, critical, interventions for value addition, which I think will then, take us and bridge this gap between where we are now and the goal that we have set for ourselves.
Thanks all the panelists for being today, and thanks audience.